Hey, welcome everybody. What's going on? Welcome to another episode of Heavy Metallurgy. It's Friday. It's episode 152. I am your least attractive co-host, Marty. Good to see everybody. And of course, Alan. How you doing, man? What's been going on?
Not much. Just a very busy week with work, keeping an eye on March Madness basketball tournament in the background as best I can, and listening to a whole lot of metal.
Excellent. Excellent. I don't know that I have. Well, I could promote, I hadn't showed these in a while. We still have these up on the link in the description. You got the Sex Condor design done by Lee over at Heavy Art Talk. We got the, of course, the Napalm Death parody, but the Collector Scum, Heavy Metallurgy Collector Scum edition, which I need to send our guest one of those. I'm pretty sure he'd like that. And, of course, the Pestilence Streams Eternal Mark Riddick design. Links in the description. And there's going to be, I'm hoping this week, I'm going to get patches to the plant to get some Heavy Metallurgy patches made. And we might even be doing the coffee mugs sooner than later, too. But we'll discuss all that later. Stuff
Very
coming.
cool.
Lots of stuff. But yeah, we're having a fun stream tonight with one of our favorite guests, Jurgen.
Hey, there he is.
Six
Good
Beers,
evening.
Nine Wives. Welcome back.
Yeah.
How have you been?
Well, I've been doing good, a little bit busy, but everything's okay.
Excellent. You got the Rage shirt on in celebration of the 26th Rage album that dropped today?
Yeah. I can give that away. I think this one is better than the new Judas Priest.
Ah,
Okay.
there you go.
Yeah.
Right on.
But you're gonna see a little bit of that later on.
Very, very soon, yes.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, this is a topic that is custom designed for this guest in mind. And what are we talking about today?
Well, I think we're talking about the Saxon catalog and listening to Chameleon in the background. So
We're re-ranking all the Saxon albums now that there's another one. We got to start from scratch, and we're going to put
Right.
Chameleon on
Right.
repeat until we're done.
That's a great idea. That's a
Yeah.
great idea.
That is the most interesting idea I've heard all day.
Well, everybody, it's been great. Have a good.
Bye, Jurgen.
okay, I'm gonna rank the Saxon albums, and wait a minute, I'm gonna put on Chameleon in the background.
Someone say Halloween. Okay.
No, they didn't.
We're gonna talk about the Destruction catalog,
Yes.
front to back, and rank the albums.
And for people that maybe have lived under a tree stump their entire lives and don't know who Destruction is a German thrash metal band formed in 1982. They have been credited as one of the big four of the German thrash metal scene, the others being Creator, Sodom, and Tankard. In addition to helping pioneer black metal, Destruction was part of the second wave of thrash metal in the mid to late 80s, along with American bands Testament, Sacred Reich, Death Angel, and Dark Angel. For most of the 90s, the band was not signed to a record label and was forced to self-produce their albums until they signed a contract with Nuclear Blast in the early 2000s. There's all sorts of history here. I'm just giving you the overview. So we're not here to get too deep into what they were called before and whatnot, but we are here to talk about their albums and rank them. And so we'll start with you, Jurgen. What was before we get into showing the records, what was your first step into the Destruction world?
We had a TV show in Germany called Hard and Heavy, and they had a faked live version of Reject Emotions from the Matt Butcher EP. So that was my first contact, and shortly after I saw that, Release from Agony was released, and yeah, that was my entry point. And I've followed them religiously since then.
Right on.
So it was not a big task to do the ranking and talking a little bit about that stuff.
Yeah, we all have to keep in mind that Jurgen was at the right age group and at ground zero for some of the best thrash ever made.
Yeah.
Lucky guy.
Yeah.
How about you, Alan? What was your connection with Destruction, if at all?
Yeah, it took me a while to hear anything by them. German thrash was something that just never popped up in my area. Of course, not much of anything popped up in my area, living in the rural South, you didn't come across a whole lot of those releases. But even when I got out, to a city with a record store, stuff like Creator, Destruction, they just didn't stock much of that stuff. And so it wasn't until a bit later I got into those. My first encounter with Destruction was in a tape trade. Somebody put the first 2 albums on a 90-minute TDK. So I kind of heard both those albums at the same time at once. And, as we'll talk about, I was instantly very impressed with them. For a long time, they were clearly my favorite of the German Big Four thrash bands. Knee-jerk answer is that they still are, but, the others have grown on me quite a bit. But of all 4, Destruction was really the one that kind of, captured my imagination the most as I was introduced to each of them at that time.
Right on.
Where'd you come across them, Marty?
I can't remember, to be honest, the first time I heard them. It might have been on a comp, but I remember I would just go into Camelot Music in the mall and start looking at tapes, and it was on the right label. It had a cool cover, and I ended up going home with Eternal Devastation. That was my first jump-in point for Destruction. Absolutely blown away by it. Quickly thereafter bought Infernal Overkill on cassette. And then some time later, I made a trip downstate to a big record store, real record store, and got the Sentence of Death EP on cassette. So I was just a rabid fan. I think Mike is one of the most underrated but amazing guitar players, and we'll get into his style and get into how his sound, his guitar. Yeah, Schmier, very important in the Destruction aesthetic. His vocals are unique, a style all his own, and it's very much a character-defining trait for Destruction, but boils down to, I think, Schmier, which we heard a little bit of on the album Crack Brain. Schmier, Destruction could still go on without him. I don't know. That album is, we'll talk about that album here in a minute, but I think Mike is the irreplaceable element of, granted, they've moved on without Mike at this point, but his guitar work is so amazing to me. It's just free flowing and busy, and the way he, palm mutes, and just his riffs are so inventive and awkward, and they have feeling and spirit to them. It's the Destruction sound, and regardless of what the band has gone through as far as stylistic changes, you can always hear him at the core of it. So for me, it's hard to say. The Big Four, I was always a Creator guy. I mean, Destruction and Creator were neck and neck for me. It's hard for me to really, especially those early Creator records, Pleasure to Kill in particular, and Extreme Aggression. Those 2 are part of my DNA, as are these early Destruction albums as well. But I fell out of league with them a bit as the years have gone on, up through why is my All Hell Breaks Loose with their comeback record. I was back in full force with them again for a while, and petered out again until it's been kind of fun to reconnect with a lot of these records. A couple of them I've only heard for the first time this week. So so I think what we're going to do is we're each going to go through, and Jurgen's going to get us started. We're going to do what we do. Go ahead.
Yeah, we're going to talk about the album specifically, but I'm going to show some stuff that came out in between.
Perfect.
So the first thing they released was the Bestial Invasion of Hell demo tape. Got 6 songs. After that, they released their first mini LP, Sentence of Death. This is the European cover. Everybody should know that. That is the US cover.
I always preferred the US cover. It's so cheesy, but man, I always loved it.
I love that little skeleton coming out of the grave, yeah.
There's the vinyl of it.
Yeah. Just lately, they released a couple of shaped picture discs. This is Antichrist and Tormentor. That one is Total Disaster and Satan's Vengeance. So, in 1985, they released their first album called Infernal Overkill. That one came out on SPV Records, Steamhammer. My copy is the original, already back in the day, digital, remastered. So, this one is a cult classic. Some of the people from Norway called that a black metal album. It's a proto black metal album, I don't know, but for me, it's a thrash album.
Yeah, a dark thrash record.
A dark thrash record, yeah. And they got the image with bullet belts and studs and leather.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's impossible to name favorite tracks from the album because the album is
so
great
good.
front to back. Even the instrumental track, Thrash Attack, Invisible Force is a classic. They still play it live. Bastille Invasion, another classic, still in the set list. Black Death, Antichrist. Antichrist is a re-recording from the first demo tape. And this one has a very, very special sound. It's done by Horst Müller, who also did Hellhammer and Sodom and Creator and that stuff. And that was a hippie producer that was smoking weed all the time and didn't care too much about what was going on in the studio. So he just twiddled the knobs and smoked joints. But Destruction were very, very good musicians from the start. Not like Sodom or to some degree Creator were not that great musicians. Destruction's debut album was a different beast. After the album came out, they went on tour here in Germany with Slayer in '85.
Wow, what a tour.
Yeah. So Hell Awaits tour that was.
Mm-hmm.
My ranking for that one. This, out of the 15 albums, this one is number 3 for me.
Okay. And before we get too far into it, everybody's having the debate. You know, we've talked, I don't know if we touched on this before, but the big four of Germany, everybody's throwing Old Tankard under the bus. But you know what? I think they kind of deserve to be there. I think they're a great band. They've always been a great band. They're still kicking ass. I don't know. I don't know who would replace them.
Yeah, maybe Exhumer. Definitely not Holy Moses. Definitely not Darkness, nor Assassin.
Or Paradox.
So, Paradox is better than all the big four.
Yeah, but they, I don't think they would even be in the conversation for most people, you know?
Yeah. No, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of those bands, have some good albums, but not the kind of longevity or consistency of Tankard.
Yeah, Creator, Tankard were there very, very early. Yeah. They started in '82. Their first demo tape is from what I believe from '82. So I think that's why they are in the big four.
They were there at the right time. They're early and they're still going. I think it's deserved. I really do.
Yeah. Over the years, the only band I didn't play with was Creator. So we played multiple shows with Creator, Destruction, and Sodom. So
sweet.
I know those guys at least a little bit.
Right. Enough to share a beer with them anyway.
Yeah, and a joint.
Right.
Especially with Mike.
Right.
Smoking a joint and playing chess.
Ah, nice. Cool. All right, Alan. Infernal Overkill.
Yeah, like I said in the beginning, this was one of the first 2 Destruction albums I heard. Though this was, later. I honestly have no idea when. If I was tape trading, it was probably like mid-90s. But yeah, like Jurgen said, great album, great sound, classic track list. And the thing that really did stand out to me about them, it was what Jurgen pointed out. They were really good musicians right out of the gate. Creator, took a little while to get there. Sodom took a little longer to get there, maybe. When I was introduced to those bands and first hearing a lot of the German thrash stuff, during the 90s, the sloppy stuff didn't appeal to me at first. Over time, I've come to enjoy it quite a bit. I like a lot of those early Sodom and Creator albums now. Back then, it struck me as like, for somebody that was raised more on the really kind of tight Bay Area thrash sound, it just did. It sounded a little too sloppy for me back then. but Destruction didn't. Destruction was the one that, had the chops where they could kind of, hang with that, same kind of level of technicality that you got from some of the Bay Area stuff. So, yeah, that's why, they were, sort of an instant sell with me, whereas the other bands took some warming up to. But yeah, there's really nothing else I can add. It's a great track list. You've got one thing I've noticed going through their catalog the past several weeks since we agreed on this topic, and I hadn't picked up on this before. Destruction almost always includes an instrumental and or a cover song. So there's going to be plenty of covers for Marty to rant about tonight.
Oh yeah.
But in a lot of cases, the instrumentals at least, they're not throwaways. A lot of times, they are a decent number, even if it does just kind of, tie some other parts of the record together. Mm-hmm. So yeah, great album, great debut for me. I have it ranked one spot higher than Jurgen. I've got this at number 2 out of their 15. Yeah, I give it, a solid, I don't know, around 9 out of 10, 8.75 out of 10 kind of score. We're very much up there. So Marty, what's your take with this one?
Well, one thing we discussed a little bit early here, it's a dark thrash record. A lot of people say this album and early Creator was the Norwegians. The second tier of black metal cited these bands as influences. You say
sorry, Marty. Yeah, I meant to say they were kind of cited or referred to as like black speed metal at the time. So yeah, they definitely had that tag for a while. Right.
And you throw around the term dark thrash, it puts me in mind of another band, Possessed. I think Possessed in this Destruction record, Seven Churches and Infernal Overkill are really strongly linked in there's like an evil to it. People still say, oh no, Possessed, Seven Churches is the first death metal album. I don't know, man. I always thought it was a thrash record because at the time I heard Possessed, I hadn't heard death. I didn't know death metal. So it's always in my brain going to be thrash, but definitely one of the darkest of their collection. And Jurgen's right. There is not a bad song on this record at all. Favorites for me, Bestial Invasion, The Ritual, Invincible Force, Antichrist. Those are the 4, even though it's hard to pick, but those are the 4 that really stand out. I like the fact that Tommy's drum performance on here, he's very sloppy rhythmically, especially in his kick, the kick drums, the bass drums, double kick he's performing just outside of his skill set, so it's a little sloppish. Mm-hmm. It adds to the charm of this record. I love that. I love the fact that the technology wasn't there to go in and fix all that shit. That's one thing about modern metal. To all of the good things about it, and recording it is so much easier to record digitally. It just is. Typically the sound's better, but you kind of have the opportunity to eliminate all the life out of it. Modern metal, Destruction, they even they become a modern thrash metal band as the years go on here, and it works for them. It still sounds like Destruction, just with a modern take, but it's clean and pristine, and it's kind of, you go from where they started. The songs were amazing. They didn't need to have perfect double bass. They didn't, and they even there's some standout double bass stuff where it's like, ooh, he's just barely hanging in there. I don't know. I love it. I think it's a great record. Yeah, it's number 2 on my list. Part of it is nostalgia, but there's no denying the fact that the songs on here were so good. They had, the next album, they really get a little more technical and strange, but where they started was amazing. Dark, evil thrash. Thumbs up. Number 2 for me.
Yeah.
And that brings us to 1986.
Yeah, right. So, 1986 saw the release of Eternal Devastation. Oh, there's a little patch in there. Also released on Steamhammer Records. Also produced by Horst Müller. But the sound on that one is quite different to the first one. The first one has a really full drum sound and a really full bass and guitar sound. This one sounds so thin, but the guitars are fucking razor sharp on that one. When I first heard the beginning of Curse the Gods, that was so strange. I thought, well, it sounds tinny. Is that the right word?
I've said on here a million times, it sounds like they recorded the guitars on tinfoil
Yeah.
instead of tape. Tinfoil.
The cover artwork is awesome. They still got the image, a little bit less of the bullet belts, but still leather jackets and stuff. This one, as well as Infernal Overkill, it doesn't have a bad song. And
No.
The ending of the record with Confused Minds, with the steps getting away, the door, and the screaming girl,
Mm-hmm.
I loved it. I was a young kid when I first heard that. So, yeah. Great record. I see. It's recorded in the same studio as Obsessed by Cruelty by Sodom was.
Yep.
You talked about the awkward drumming of Tommy. That was his last record with the band. He stepped away to become a police officer.
Mm.
He cut his hair. He played with short hair even on the Slayer tour. And they played a tour with Creator and Rage called Hell Comes to Your Town in 1986. And Tommy wasn't able to do it because of his job commitments. So guess who stepped in?
Witch Hunter.
Yeah, right.
Makes sense.
Perfect fit.
Yeah, really.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, especially then. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yep.
They played my hometown, and I wanted to go, but I was 11 years old, and my parents wouldn't let me go.
Where are you ranking this one?
This one, out of the 15, is my number 2. Yes, I think it's a little bit better than Infernal Overkill.
Right on.
Okay.
Okay, Alan.
Oh yeah, I agree on all points. You know, the production is famously kind of yeah, it is very weird. For whatever reason, it has never phased me much on this album. Yes, I admit, yeah, it's got that, like Jurgen said, very thin sound with a very, very sharp guitar sound. And I know that does knock it down a few pegs for a lot of folks. It just does not bother me. I think
Nope.
the album still sounds really great. And I think part of it is just, the strength of the songs on here is, again, just top-notch stuff. Curse the Gods is, an absolute classic. There are some that maybe aren't maybe one step down. What's the second track? Confound Games.
Yep.
Yeah. No. Okay. Now that one's it's not Curse the Gods Part 2, but yeah, you've got Eternal Ban, United by Hatred. It's a stacked track list. The band is still going really strong, and the production it's not a problem for me. So. Like Jurgen, I also think this is slightly better than the debut, but so I have to go from a number 2 for Infernal Overkill, and I have this ranked at number 1 as my favorite. It's very close between these two albums, though. It really could flip-flop, and I wouldn't have a problem with that. This isn't a case where I've got a clear favorite that always stays on top. But these first two albums, yeah, they are the 1-2 punch for me for sure. So, Marty, where are you going to rank this one?
Well, this one was the first one I heard, and yeah, I wrote down, can there exist both the worst and best thrash guitar tones at the same time on the same album? Because it is really shitty, but on the same token, it's really abrasive, the way the guitars and the production sounds. There's a bit of static to it. It's like Jurgen said, it's very sharp. But it sounds like destruction. Those riffs just sear through the speakers. It's so good. And you're right, Alan. This is a completely stacked lineup of songs. Curse the Gods. I mean, they still play that song. I like Confound Games. Life Without Sense. What a ripper. The riffing in the chorus is holy shit awesome. United by Hatred, Eternal Ban, Upcoming Devastation, Confused Mind. Wow. It's just so freaking good. Yeah, it's my number 1. This is where I started, and even if I started somewhere else, this would still come around to being my number 1. I think, moving forward, there's a lot of really good records to come, but they never really were. They never really were as good as their first 3. They just weren't. It's just so the songs were so full of life and so full of. It felt so inventive, and how this band escaped being on Noise Records when everybody else in Germany was on Noise Records. It's kind of, I think it benefited the band actually. You don't really hear them. Mm-hmm. Granted, they were dropped during the in the little intro I read there, it said that they were without a label for some time, just kind of floating around. But yeah, at least they didn't have to go through all the crap that. Although the whole noise thing, you don't hear Tankard complaining. Tankard never really complained in the book. Nothing. They weren't.
Yeah.
They seemed to be completely fine being a German or European band, and they could care less if they went to America at the time. They were happy. They had their jobs. They went out and they did the band stuff when they could. They were fine with whatever came, but I don't know. Anyway, I'm getting off track here, but this album is great. This is my favorite, hands down. What a unique, and that's another thing. The 4 thrash bands in Germany, none of them sound alike, and I think Destruction is a little bit the most vibrant of the 4 as far as the riff style and intensity of it.
I'd agree. Yeah, and yeah, they kind of that's a good point about noise, but it sounds like, if I understand the timeline correctly, Steamhammer pretty much already had Destruction and Sodom tied up pretty early on, because part of Creator landing on Noise was that Walter felt like he needed some German thrash band, and those 2 were already taken. So yeah, Creator was the first one that kind of fell into his lap that he got a chance to sign before they got picked up by Steamhammer.
Yeah, Creator was the last one to release anything from the Big 4.
And the funny thing is, you read that book, the Creator were just kids, and he treated them like crap. He talked to them like they were dogs. And I think that it was a very eye-opening reading that. I mean, I love Noise Records. I love the whole era. I love all the music he put out. But reading how he treated the bands, the guy was a bastard. But anyway, that leads us to 1987.
Wait a second.
Yeah.
A lot of people have the CD version, the old SPV version on CD with the Matt Butcher EP.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And the sound on that CD is crappy because they used the rough mixes for it, so you can hear the count-ins, and there's a gap between the intro and Curse the Gods, and the bass is almost completely missing. So if you want to get a version of it, get the original or one of the multiple re-releases on High Roller Records.
So the original came out on SPV. I've got the Metal Blade Restless Records version. It came out in 85, but it's a US version.
Yeah. Yeah, Metal Blade licensed them.
It was recorded in 86 and it came out in 85?
Oh, it is 86. It's a super small font and my eyes are rotten. So yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Don't fuck me up with Destruction.
Oh, it's a whole nother mix. I got a specialer one.
Oh yeah.
Yes, I got the Ultra.
Go ahead. Metal Blade pressed the rehearsals too.
He pressed their thoughts.
They were in secret negotiations with Slagel to get the demo, so they sent them that. And then the talks fell through, so they had to go back to Steamhammer.
Yeah, as if I didn't know that, huh? So, in between 2 albums, they got a new lineup together with Ollie on drums and what's his name, Harry on second guitar. So first time with a second guitar player, and they released the Matt Butcher EP. That
classic album cover artwork too, by the way.
Love it is.
Their mascot.
Very, very fond memories of that artwork. A short story here. We had in school, we had an older guy who was always every day wearing this shirt, and we called him Thraction because we said destruction like a Thraction. And he was so upset, he always wanted to beat us up. So basically, this one has got one new song, and it's Reject Emotions. Matt Butcher, of course, is a re-recording from the first EP. The Damned is a cover song by the Plasmatics, and The Last Judgment is just a little instrumental guitar piece. So Reject Emotions is the only new song on it. That was my introduction to the band, of course. And Reject Emotions, you could hear where they were going with a second guitar player and really tight drumming. So in '87, they released From Agony. Again, another album. The sound is a little bit strange, but I don't mind it. The vocals are a little bit more shrieky than on the first two albums, not that evil sounding. The image is getting a little bit tamer. The album cover is great.
Mm-hmm.
And we've talked about that on your show before.
Yeah, we did an album club for it. Yep.
In length, yeah. So everybody should know I've done a destruction ranking myself, but I think I since deleted that. This one is my number one because I got into the band with this album. That was the first one I bought. It was a 17 Deutschmark, so it's still got the price sticker. Yeah. What can I say about that album? No bad song on it. And no, Sign of Fear is not a bad song, Marty. And yes, this one is better than you know what Extreme Aggression.
Oh God, it really isn't, but that's cool.
Yeah, it is.
It's weird. It's weird. I'll give it that. It's got a weird edge to it. All right, did you rank it? Yeah, you did. Number one. Absolutely.
Yeah, that is my number one. Yeah.
Right on. All right, Alan.
So yeah, Destruction changes a little bit here. The production famously is got a really kind of cold, clinical sound to it. It kind of highlights their technicality, which people either like or don't like that kind of production a lot of the time. I think it works pretty well here for this material. It's not a type of production I like in some other cases, though. But yeah, here I think it's just fine. Also feels like the band is maybe moving away from just a little bit of the over the top crazy. This is where they're maybe getting away from that black speed metal image. This imagery on the cover, the lyrics, they're getting a little bit more into that personal paranoia, kind of persecuted, really kind of crawling into Schmier's brain and discovering all the crazy stuff that's going on there. More than the kind of internal strife and issues rather than just curse the gods or tormentor kind of stuff. They're maturing a little bit in a way. The material's still really good, but yeah, it can be sometimes a little bit of a tough listen if you're not in the mood for that production style. Still like it quite a bit. Ranks very high for me as well. I've got it ranked at number 4. So yeah, out of these first 3 albums, I've already used 1, 2, and 4. It'll be a little while before I get to 3 though, so I'm not going to use all the high numbers right away.
Okay. One thing I forgot to talk about a bit on Eternal Devastation, and it spills into this record too, very much so. I mean, Eternal Devastation, Release from Agony, they're both sonically and the way the songs are written, it's the very essence of Destruction, completely unique and razor sharp. The songs, they're not just verse, chorus. It feels, especially on Eternal Devastation, and they even refined it a bit more on Release from Agony. The songs feel like a journey to me, which for a thrash, I mean, you listen to the first Tankard, the chorus is the name of the song. It's just very verse chorus centric. This stuff here, they go on these weird shifts and weird tempo changes, which it's just funny because as they modernize and go forward, they kind of stay in the same tempo through every album. They fluctuate here and there, but that's one complaint I have of modern Destruction. But anyway, Release from Agony, we talked about it at length, a good hour and a half with Jurgen on the album club. It's got weird production. Typically, when you go into a studio and you go to record a guitar amp, you put the mic right up against the speaker cone. You really get you really get in there and get the direct attack of the guitar. You listen to this album, it sounds like they put the mic back here. So it's like 4 feet away. It sounds like they recorded it 4 feet away from the amp. So it's a very roomy sound. which is, it's just weird. It's kind of it's like they're experimenting. It's just, we're still in that time where producers don't know what to do with this music. They don't know what to do with it. And I think as the years go on, they get it figured out. This has always kind of suffered from another weird, it's weird in a different way production, but it's still, the songs are very good. There's a bit of a prog aspect that enters some of the song structure and the playing. I really like Release from Agony, Dissatisfied Existence. Again, it's an album with not many faults on it. It's my number 3. It's the first 3 are always going to be at the top, and I just found myself having to work when I bought this when it came out. I had to work a little bit harder to like the songs because it was a slight difference, even though it's the sound of the same band, same kind of riff style. It just seemed a little bit more adventurous. They started working with a little bit more atmosphere than Internal Devastation, but it grew on me over the years. I ended up loving it, and number 3, which leads us to 1990.
Yeah, shortly before that, they played a one-off show at the Dynamo Open Air in 1987. They went on tour in late 1987 with King Diamond and Motorhead. And on that tour, they recorded their first live release.
They toured the U.S. with the Cro-Mags too. Mm-hmm. Motorhead and the Cro-Mags, I believe. Is that right?
Someone just mentioned who it was in the chat a second ago.
Just Destruction and no Motorhead. Motorhead on that.
Cro-Mags, though. This is a classic live album, by the way. It's great. Absolutely
great. It is. It's got a little bit of a strange sound. The snare drum on that is very gated. Marty maybe knows what I mean. Mm-hmm. Very 80s, like.
It sounds like a studio re-recording of a live set is what it sounds like to me. But because it's a pretty good sound for the places they were playing here in the U.S. But they played pretty big venues here in Europe, and I bet
that was the tour here in Europe for the album.
Wow. Yep.
Yeah. So they played a lot of shows. The most part of it is recorded in France. I asked them. So okay, that was their live album. After that, they had a little fallout with their singer Marcel or Schmier. They went to the studio to record their 4th album, and Schmier couldn't make up any good lyrics or vocal lines. His bass playing was sloppy because the rest of the band was very much into Watchtower at that time. So they got rid of Schmier and got a guest vocalist on the album Cracked Brain.
My OG cassette.
Yeah. Awesome cover artwork.
Yep.
They got the guy from Poltergeist on this
Andre Grieder.
Yeah, right. He's not on any photos in here. He was not supposed to be the new vocalist, but just a stand-in vocalist, and they were searching for a vocalist after that. So this album, even more technical than Release from Agony. The production is pretty cool on that one. The songwriting, there are 2 of my favorite Destruction songs on the album, Cracked Brain and Ripping You Off Blind.
Cracked Brain is a great song.
Yeah,
that's an
Ripping
awesome.
You Off Blind as well. They did My Sharona.
Yeah. It's a low point on the album.
I don't know why, but it ends side A, so you can lift the needle before the song starts.
Right.
I did that. They were supposed to go on tour with Sodom here in 1990, but ticket sales were so low they canceled that whole tour. So no tour for the album Cracked Brain. So I'm just gonna mention shortly. Schmier founded his other band called Headhunter. And on the album, that one is from 1990 as well. So he was very quick in following up Destruction. This one has Jörg Michael on drums, who now plays in Stratovarius. And this one has got a song called Cracked Brain on it.
A little dig at his former band, huh?
Yeah. I think he wrote some lyrics for the album Cracked Brain, which they used. So Cracked Brain or Cracked Brain was probably his idea.
Mm.
So, yeah.
Did you rank that? I don't
No.
remember.
Cracked Brain is my number 5.
Mm.
Okay.
I got used to the album. I didn't like it that much when it came out, but I got used to it, and now I love it. So it's my number 5.
Right on. Okay, Alan, Crack Brain, 1990.
Yeah, so obviously the change in vocalists, the big deal here. And that's interesting to hear. I was going to ask you, Jurgen, why there was a split, because I never had really heard anything about why Schmier was out of the band at that point. But yeah, if they were trying to go super technical and he wasn't into it, that would do it. That said, I do think Andre steps in pretty well here.
Yeah.
He's not as good as Schmier, fair enough, but his voice operates in the same general style.
You could tell he could sing that stuff.
Yeah, he could sing it. He could sing that stuff, and he could sing it close enough to the way Schmier did that there wasn't like this really drastic change that you had to get used to. It wasn't like a completely different vocal sound or style. So it's like, if Schmier's gone, this guy's a pretty good one to step in behind the mic for you. So I think they succeeded on that point. Next time they change vocalists, that might not be the case. A little foreshadowing. But so, the vocal duties are covered just fine here. The album feels like, they're still operating pretty similar to what they were doing on the previous album, but everything's, reined in a little bit. There's not as much of that, kind of proggy vibe. You described that really well before, Marty. You don't quite get that, or at least I don't get that on Cracked Brain. Feels like, they just kind of took that formula and made it a little more compact, a little bit more streamlined, so that, it's a little easier to wrap my brain around these songs, cracked or not. It's not an album I've played very much over the years. I heard it long ago, hadn't played it in forever until we decided on this topic. But yeah, it's good enough. The My Sharona cover, we all make mistakes. It's a thing. It happened. They do some good covers later on, I promise. Don't tune out just yet. But I think it's still, it's a good album. Despite the lineup change, it still works. It's still Destruction. They still sound like Destruction. In terms of, like ranking and grade, I might give this one somewhere like, B minus type of grade. Still a good album. Maybe it doesn't quite, measure up to, I think its biggest sin is it just doesn't quite measure up to the first 3 albums. But, that's really tough to do. And yeah, even with like that kind of B minus ranking, I've got this one ranked 9th. And that's more just a testament to how good some of the other stuff in the catalog is. It's not a dig against this album. As we see as we'll go on, there's only one album out of all 15 of these that I want to say is, not a good album. So all the others are really, jockeying with one another for position, and a lot of them are very close. It's a consistent catalog. But Cracked Brain, this month's playlist is going to come in 9th out of 15.
All right. Well, I got this when it came out on tape. I still have the tape. It's kind of an overlooked album in their catalog, I think. And really, with the album starts off with Cracked Brain. What an awesome song. It is a great Destruction song. It sounds like Destruction. It's been a while since I spun this, so refamiliarizing myself with it this week, I was surprised that I didn't notice this before, but Jurgen, you mentioned they're into Watchtower and going more technical. I hear Testament. I hear a lot of Testament on this record, a lot. And it kind of, they go from they start off sounding like Destruction, and as the album goes on, all these little Testament harmonies kind of come in, and they kind of go to that mid-pace. They kind of changed from being Destruction into more of a run-of-the-mill for the era thrash band. And then, throw in My Sharona. It's kind of like, oh my God, why that song? Out of all the songs in the world, why that song? But it's really, I've got it ranked really low because it's so stylistically different from the rest. It sounds the least like Destruction out of the bunch, other than the one that's coming up next. So I put it at number 14, and it isn't because I don't like the album, because I do. I think it's a good record. I just don't see it as a pure Destruction record. And that's not because Schmier isn't on it. It's just the music changed. You could tell Mike was trying to follow the times a bit, and for 1990, maybe it was a bit too late. You know what I mean? But other than that, it's a good record, but I still have it as number 14. It was reissued, a couple years ago. I never did end up getting a copy of it, but it's certainly worth picking up on vinyl. And I think it's still fairly easy to obtain, too. So
Yeah.
All right, and that leads us to 1998.
Bit of a gap there. What happened?
Yeah.
What happened?
What happened? Yeah.
They lost their deal with Steamhammer. They lost their singer, their iconic, let's call him iconic singer.
Sure. It's fair.
So, Steamhammer does what Steamhammer always did with bands. They released a double live best of.
I have that as well. Yep.
Containing stuff from all the albums and the very first mini album. They took a little break and came back with a completely new lineup I can see that right now. I think it was 1995. They released a self-titled little EP on their own label. So this is a self-release on Brain Butcher Productions. Only 4 songs, completely new lineup, completely new style. This one has little tinges of the old Destruction left, but the vocalist is just not good. The drummer Ollie and guitar player Harry were still in the band back then. After that, they did another mini CD. Those two were never released on vinyl. It's Them, Not Me. Also self-released. 6 songs on that one. A little bit more strange than the other mini CD, which leads us to, like I said, 1998. The least successful human cannonball. Yeah. Great album artwork, great Destruction logo, great music. No, to be honest, this is not a bad record. It's just not a Destruction record. It's got cool songs on it. Very weird stuff at times. So you might scratch your head a couple of times when you listen to that. The production is not bad on that one, although it's self-recorded. But that one, it's my number 15. It's my least favorite Destruction album. Still not as bad as people say. Listen to it without the Destruction name on it. Feels different then.
Yeah. All right.
Yep.
Alan.
Oh, well, little known fact. Now, Jurgen, you must have the European version there because it's got the least successful human cannonball title. You may not be aware that it had a very limited pressing in the United States, but they decided to change the album title to try to help the marketing a bit. Over here, it's known as Cowboys from Germany. Because,
I need to get that version.
Cowboys from Germany no more.
I'll keep an eye out for it for you if we can. I think they added a bonus track. It was like a vulgar display of something.
Yeah, of agony.
We'll just end the joke there. You are right. Now, there is some very good music on the album. Mike's guitar work, there's still a lot of cool stuff happening in the background there. The problem is it's all happening in the background there. You just can't escape, they're doing two things here that just don't work in the context of Destruction. You've got a vocalist who has, every, centerfold pinup image in a teen heartthrob magazine of Phil Anselmo hung up in his locker at school. And I'm, for folks that are into mid-90s groove-laden Pantera type metal, this album might work. It has its fans. But that's the second thing that just doesn't work in the Destruction context here. They're going really heavy on the groove. It's meant to be a very groovy record. And for me personally, I that's not my style of metal. Not a Pantera fan. I don't like the 90s groove direction that metal went in. So yeah, this album's a huge miss for me. The cover artwork is so bad as to at least be hilariously bad. You can look at it and at least laugh and kind of facepalm and get a good chuckle out of it. But yeah, you are right. It is fair to say there is some good music back there. It's not a total disaster front to back. They've gone in a direction that does not work for me personally or for a lot of other folks. Even for some of the folks that are, kind of apologists for this album, it's kind of funny because you read through like a lot of reviews and comments about the album, and every single one of them, it seems, always wants to focus on the fact that the bass is so loud and clear. The bass tone, man, is just amazing. Wow, the bass work is so great. Okay, those things might be true, and that's fine. Nothing against it.
And it's funky.
Good. Yes, they'll mention that it's got a little bit of, it's got some funk in the bass.
Stupid.
Nothing wrong with any of that.
Yeah,
but my point is, my point though is this. If you're trying to, stick up for an underdog of an album, and you're trying to convince folks that no, you've got it all wrong, you're looking at it upside down, but your strongest, most consistent argument is, but the bass tone. I'm sorry, you don't have a whole lot to build your case on. If you're like, I can hear the bass, I'm like, so it's a recorded album with a bass. You can hear the bass on almost every album this side of Transylvanian Hunger. That can't be your central argument for why this album is passable. So yeah, at the end of the day, my 15th also an easy 15th. It is, there's like stratigraphic columns of material between this one and number 14 even. But I won't say like it's a 0% F- or anything. Jurgen said it and he's correct. Mike, and the guys, there's decent music going on in the background. It's just put through this groove filter and has this vocalist that
he sucks.
The professor cannot abide. So no, number 15,
nasally and whiny. I'll
give it like a D-. We'll let it squeak by and to acknowledge that yes, some of the guys are still trying to do some good stuff back there.
Yep.
But Marty, I'll let you take a shot at it now.
I texted Alan this week. I said the music on Human Cannibal album is quite good. Shows off Mike's unique playing style, but the groove aspect and that singer makes it a tough sell for a Destruction album. And
exactly,
that's a nice way of saying it. And really, like the song Brother of Cain, musically a very interesting song, and it's kind of heavy. There's some moments that sound like Destruction. Their singer sucks. He's like nasally, whiny. There's funk aspects of funk, which I am not. As a musical style on its own, I'm all for funk. Mixed in with my metal, oh man, it's like rap and metal. Mickey made me listen to that, and he made me listen to that second Mordred album, the one that Jurgen loves. And I like the first one other than the two funky songs. And it was just a tough sell. It is so talented and good. I don't like it. And of course, there's a grunge aspect where in 1998, really, there should have been a different band. It should have just been a different band. Sodom and Destruction came to the U.S. during this era. They played the Milwaukee Metal Fest. Were you at that year, Alan?
No, that would have been before.
The year before. That was the year before you went.
Must have been.
And I was all excited to see Destruction, and out comes this guy that looked like an alternative singer wearing a shirt with a star on it that said Star. And as soon as he started singing, the garbage started to fall upon the stage. People started hurling shit. You go to the Milwaukee Metal Fest and you come with that shit? Nah. And the guy was like dodging the garbage and smiling, trying to pretend like it didn't bother him. I think he was terrified, to be honest. The Sodom were great. But yeah, this is the first time this week I've heard this record, so I was actually quite excited to put the album with the mental experience of seeing them play this during this era. And yeah, it checks out. What I saw on stage and what I heard on the album, it makes sense. They were lost and trying to find, they had the curse of their past behind them, and metal being kind of chastised in the mid to late 90s. It didn't help either. So they were a lost band. But that leads us to 2 years later.
Just to make it official, Marty, you're putting that one where in your ranking?
That's 15 all day long, all day, every day.
Just to officially enter the scoreboard over here.
Yep, sorry, 15 for me, for sure. And that leads us to the comeback Schmear. They got the band back together, and we are all hell breaks loose. The year 2000, the Y2K album.
Yeah, in 2000 they decided to play a couple of shows. Was it 2099? I think they started playing again. They played Wacken Open Air, and that from there on it went off. Everybody wanted to hear a new Destruction album, so they did it in 2000. They released the album All Hell Breaks Loose.
It's a really good album.
The first single for the album was The Butcher Strikes Back. When I heard it, I hated it. When I bought the album, I hated the album. I hated the songwriting. But it took me about maybe a year and a half, seeing them a couple of times live. And live, the songs were great. And I got used to the Peter Tegrin production. Not many bad songs on the album. Extreme Measures, the last one, is not very good. Tears of Blood, Machinery of Lies, The Final Curtain, side A is brilliant.
It's really good. Yeah.
The Butcher Strikes Back, as cheesy as it is, it's a great song. It came out as a double LP, and it's got the demo, the very first demo on it. So there you go. You talked about a concert for the lineup with the least successful Human Cannonball. Mm-hmm. During that time, they played here in Germany in front of 20 people, something like that, when they played. And for some reason, they almost didn't play a song which they did with Schmear. So no older classics.
Wow.
Yeah, and people hated that over here as well.
Oh, sure. Yep.
I had the chance to see them, and there were 20 to 30 people there.
Can you imagine being the singer that joins that band? He's going up on stage and getting shit thrown at him.
No.
Fuck, man, why did I take this job? This sucks. Yeah.
So that one is my number 6. So as much as I hated it as high, it did grow on me. So yeah, cool album. If you want to check out newer Destruction after their comeback, this one is a go-to album. Yeah,
it's the best of the bunch, among the best of the bunch for sure.
Nope.
All right, Alan, what'd you think of their comeback album?
I think it did what it needed to do, and it demonstrated that the band could get back together and get back to business. That you could kind of just be like, all right, so the 90s happened and we're sorry, but we're not going to do that anymore. We're going to put, the guy back behind the mic, and we're going to put the logo back on the cover. And we're just going to get back to doing what we like to do, what we're good at, and what you want to hear us do, which is, play really kick-ass thrash metal. So it's what I call one of those proof of concept albums. You hear they're getting back together. Is it going to work out? What kind of style are they going to do? It's like, here you go. yes, we are back on the map with this album. As Jurgen mentioned, yes, it's got, the Abyss Studios production, so it sounds good, but things tend to be kind of loud and upfront, with that kind of sound. So some people don't like it. I don't think it's a big problem for this album. There are still maybe just a couple of leftover hints of grooviness on a couple of tracks. The one Jurgen mentioned, was it? Yeah, Extreme Measures.
Extreme Measures.
There's still a little bit of that Cannonball groove on that.
Well, they
one.
down-tuned it. They have a down-tune. That's a down-tune song.
Yeah, and I agree. It's not one of the better ones on here, but it's a fine album. It's not my favorite from the reunion era. We'll get there sooner rather than later. I've got this one dead in the middle of the catalog at number 8. So 7 albums I think are better than this one. 7 albums that I would rank lower than this one. But yeah, it's a solid Destruction album. There's nothing to be ashamed of on this album. It says we are back, and that's exactly what they needed to do. So mission achieved.
Yep, exactly. And our friend Ben, the Brain Smasher, he's got a personal vendetta against Peter Tacker and has done videos against his production style. Mm-hmm. And I don't agree with him on a lot of it, but this is one production that I agree with Ben on. It's too thin and digital sounding of a production. It's really, it still sounds like Destruction, but it's just it sounds like a very brittle production for me. The Final Curtain might be one of my top 20 favorite Destruction songs. That song just rips. It's a great. But they knew it was good. They put it the lead off track. I heard that, the hair on the back of my neck stood up. I'm like, wow. And I saw them this year 2000 at Milwaukee Metal Fest. 3-piece. They went up as a 3-piece and they crushed. They were absolutely awesome. It was so cool. Mm-hmm. The only time I've seen Destruction, and they were amazing. Let me see what I got here. Oh yeah, I'm talking about Final Curtain. Great riff work. Schmear sounds like he's out for blood on this vocally, on this album vocally. Machinery of Lies, another great song. The first, like Jurgen said, the first half. The second half, this is the era where you start to get an old thrash band comes back. They modernize their sound a little bit. They modernize their style a little bit. It's still Destruction, but this album is kind of where they go and ride out from then to now. 24 years later, they're still in this modernized Destruction realm because that's probably what they think the people want. It's back on track and on fire, though. The modernized tracks like Extreme Measures, that in particular, there's like this tough guy approach, like a tough guy crunch. Schmear's singing more like a tough guy on it. Because of the downtune. They downtuned a bit on that song, or they played a 7-string. I don't know. Also, as it kind of permeates into Visual Prostitution, another song that I don't really care that much for. Having said that, it's my number 4 record. I think of the modern era, they righted the ship. They got back. The first half of the record is classic Destruction, as far as I'm concerned. I think it's really well-written songs. They knew what they had to do. The second side, they experimented a bit, tried to continue to modernize their sound a little bit because they thought that was what was going on at the time. And come to find out, even though Destruction starts off as a very atypical, trend-setting thrash metal band, as the years go on, you find Mike starting to follow trends. You got the grunge and the funk going on. You've got the Testament on the album before it, and now we've got more of a tough guy. Oh, we got to play with a 7-string. Does Destruction, does that ever need to happen in Destruction realm? No, it doesn't. But it did. It's my least favorite song on the album for sure. But yep, number 4. It's a really great record, and they were so good live. I'm sure they still are good live, but my childhood was like seeing them, as a 3-piece playing a lot of old classics. It was a pretty special moment for sure. So yep, number 4. Great album. And that leads us to 2001.
The following year, 2001, they only had a year in between albums. They did a lot of touring. On the All Hell Breaks Loose, I've probably seen them 3 times over the year. And they came back with the Antichrist. Classic cover artwork for some reason. The image is
Stupid.
back. It's stupid, but it's back. Yeah, they try to present something special. The album starts with "Thrash to Death," which is one of my favorite Destruction songs. Nailed to the Cross. They still play that live. Bullets from Hell, another classic, and my favorite on the album is Godfather of Slander. Listen to that song; it's got a certain swing to it, and from that album on, almost on every album they have that swinging song. It's heavy metal, it's thrash metal, but it's swinging. I can't explain it the other way. This one is still produced by Peter Tegren. The sound is a little bit
It's a lot
thicker on
better.
that one.
It's a lot better.
Mm-hmm.
So that makes the Antichrist my number 4 in the catalog.
Aha. Okay.
So apart from the old classic stuff, this is my favorite from the newer stuff. And they went on tour. Got my old ticket there. I don't know if you can read that.
Perfect. Yep.
Creator, Sodom and Destruction. That one was, I earlier mentioned Creator, Destruction and Rage. Hell Comes to Your Town. This was Hell Comes to Your Town Part 2.
Creator, wait, 2001, were they still touring Indorama? Let me see here.
No.
There was Violent Revolution.
Yeah, they just released Violent Revolution.
They were getting the boat steered right in the right direction again too. Yep.
Yep.
Awesome. Okay. Alan, what did you think of the Antichrist?
I agree with Kevin's comment a minute ago. This is a ripper of an album. I've seen some reviewers who I tend to agree with rank this as the best thrash metal album of the 21st century.
Wow.
And I'm a little hard pressed to come up with competition. As much as, we all said, all hell breaks loose, very good, did what it needed to. In a way, paired with this album, it feels like it's maybe a little bit of a warm up. It's like, okay, let's work the kinks out, guys. Get back to figuring out how we do this. And now they're ready to just absolutely deliver. The album, Jurgen named, the lead tracks, both, Thrash Till Death and Nailed to the Cross. This album hits hard right out of the gate. Within those first couple of songs that this album is not going to fuck around in any way, shape, or form. It's just, front to back. It's just, completely smashing you in the face over and over again. Jurgen, like Godfather of Slander. Let Your Mind Rot is one of them that I like a lot on. It's got, a really cool kind of swirling guitar riff. It just... Everybody, is bringing their A game on this. The production's better. The visuals, I like the cover better. Even if the back's a little goofy. The songs are just, perfect, vicious, sneering, crazy destruction thrash. Exactly what you want from a band like this. So, for me, this is the definitive album. Post 90s, for the 21st century, this is the one, and I've got it ranked 3rd in their catalog, behind only the first 2 albums. This one, it's, again, I'm classically very, very gun shy when it comes to reunion projects. This wasn't like a long-term reunion or anything, but still, there's almost a decade there where they were without Schmear. Things could have gone horribly wrong. Here's a band that put it back together and absolutely deliver one of their best albums ever. So, Antichrist, 2 thumbs up, one of their best.
Right on. Well, for me, I agree. I think the production is better. It's a proper modern production. I don't know. I know that Studio Abyss changed their board at some point. And maybe it was between these 2 albums where they did it. But the old Hell Breaks Loose just a year before sounded really shitty. And this one, it seems more together, it's less of a digital static vibe to it. It's good. It's a good production. Again, this is kind of the operating procedure you're going to see from Destruction here on out. And it's a really good record. There's a bit of the tough guy thing, the nail to the fucking cross. A little bit more of the tough guy thing in there, which bugs me a little bit. And the LP version has the Exploited cover of Fuck the USA, which when the Exploited say it, I get it. If I'm fine with it. But when you get another band agreeing with them and singing it, they were once again reminded that what the world thinks of us, which is, understandable, but kind of a bummer. I don't know. Favorites on here, Thrash Till Death. I love the catchy chorus on that one. Dictators of Cruelty is another standout track for me. It's a really good album. And for me, it is number 6. Number 6. Nothing wrong with it. And there's nothing really wrong with much going here on out. It's all kind of autopilot from my perspective anyway. Some things here and there. But that leads us to 2003. What's going on in 2003?
So a lot of people were complaining about the Peter Tegren productions. So Destruction decided to work with an old friend. Production on the album Metal Discharge is done by Otto Pulver, V.O. Pulver, who used to play in Poltergeist as well. So it's an old friend from Switzerland. Destruction lives in the three-state corner of Germany. So you've got Germany, France, and Switzerland. So they didn't have to travel that far.
Yep.
So the production on that one is a little more earthy.
It's weird. It's a weird production.
It's a weird production. The songs are a little bit slower. They try to incorporate a little bit of melody here and there. Overall, it's a very, very cool album. So that's the lineup. Favorites on that one. Metal Discharge. Yeah, the title song. Mortal Remains is pretty cool, and Made to be Broken. Yeah, those are my 3 favorites on that one. So this one goes to number 7 for me, because I got used to the production of the album. I like the songs on there, and that was the time when I first met them in 2005. So we played a couple of shows with them. And during the first show, they had a little drum solo in there, and Mike was going backstage to get off the sweat and stuff, and I was standing there with a joint in my mouth to watch them from behind the curtain. And he came up to me and said, "Give me that thing."
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So he smoked it and then got out and played even better, man.
Yep. All right. Alan, your thoughts on Metal Discharge?
I never got used to the production, so yeah, this one ranks much lower for me. Whereas the Antichrist is a hard act to follow, and I agree with you, Marty. After the Antichrist, it feels like they really do start to get they found their lane and they're going to stay in it, with a little variation here and there. But yeah, this one, the production doesn't work for me, especially compared, to the previous albums. It's very noticeable that it doesn't sound nearly as sharp. As Jurgen said, some of the songs are getting slower, which they're not bad, but they feel like, they're lacking, that really sharp edge that I like with Destruction stuff. So yeah, it's kind of misfiring a little bit for me. Still not a bad album overall. For me, this is maybe something like a C+ kind of album. It's still a little better than average, but it's definitely a step down from what you just did before this. Still plenty of good songs. I like Ravenous Beast. I like Fear of the Moment. There's still songs that kind of charge forward, but between the production and just some of the songs losing a little bit of the pacing, it doesn't have the same kind of impact for me on this one. To be very clear, we're also getting into a stretch of albums here where I don't have a lot of history with these. This is the stuff that, some of these I was checking out for, the first time in recent weeks. So I've got this one ranked 13th. And like I said, I still think it's better. I think it's still a better than average album, but I think it's weak. It's a lot weaker than the album that came before it. And I think the albums that come after it all of them are at least a little bit better. So something's got to be further down, and this one just doesn't quite work for me. It's funny because the production on Eternal Devastation, not an issue. The production on this one, I'm not quite there with this one. So a lower ranking for me on this one. But again, not a bad album, just not as good as the rest. Marty, sounds like you've got it ranked higher than me.
You know what? I'm with Jurgen. I end up kind of the production, although it's odd. It seems like they went and say, we want to sound like we sound live, which a lot of bands do that. When Maiden did it, their stuff, they got a yes man in the production chair. They just says, sure, Maiden, whatever. And we get these weird sounding albums. Martin Birch made them do stuff over and over and over and cut the fat and make good songs. This guy's like, whatever, go be live. Well, here it sounds again like they didn't close mic the amps. They have the mics back. It gives them a non-destruction sound in a lot of ways. It's a roomy drum tone and a roomy guitar tone, which is, for them, you kind of lose a little of the attack. The Ravenous Beast, it feels like an adventurous take on the band's established style, more structurally intense. The lack of guitar attack makes the track feel more cacophonous with all the intricate note runs going on. It's like you're in a cave where a band is playing, a really good, intricate band, and you're trying to pick it out. The song's really good, and it actually adds a little excitement to because you don't know. You have to kind of align yourself with what's going on. The whole album feels like this in a lot of ways, and it makes it very interesting. Fear of the Moment's another song that rips. Savage Symphony of Terror has some great guitar runs in it. And Schmear's vocals, he's trying to go a little more aggressive. You can tell he's like trying to add a little more grit and grime to his vocal cords. To me, it's a number 7. Once I aligned with the weird production, I think the songs are good. I think it's a good album. It's a little bit different from the Antichrist, which really it's kind of a cool thing to do. And from here on out, for me, they kind of get into we discussed this already. They get into a flow and a formula. The albums start to not differentiate in tempo. A lot of these albums are straight across like this, like a thrash version of a D beat. Other than an album here or there might be a couple slower songs, which really is like, wow, they may not be the best songs on the album, but it's like something different. So basically from here on out, you start to just kind of critique an album on the production and, some songs here and there, but we'll get there. But yep, we're on Destruction Autopilot, but we're getting into 2005, Inventor of Evil.
Yeah, Inventor of Evil. So people were complaining about Mr. Pulver's production. People were complaining about Peter Tackeran's productions. So they made the clever move to let both of them produce the album. They recorded it in Studio Abyss, and they mixed it at V.O. Pulver's studio. So they got a combination of productions that people complain about. Yeah. Cool cover artwork.
It is.
So back in the day when it came out, I liked it better than I do now. It's not a bad album. It's got great songs. Soul Collector, a great opening track. Seeds of Fate. The Chosen Ones. Great songs on here. The production is better than the album before, but not as good as the Antichrist. Mm-hmm. And this one has got a very cheesy song called The Alliance of Hellhounds.
Yeah.
With a ton of guest vocals on it. You can barely make out who's singing what.
Biff Byford, Doro Pesch, Mark Osada or whatever from Death Angel, Messiah Marcolin, and Paul Diano, Peter Tackren. Yep. Yeah,
Paul Diano is singing on it.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah. The only one you can surely make out is Messiah's vocals on the song.
You can hear Doro in there too.
Yeah, you can get Doro. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's a cheesy song. I've only got the standard version, but there is a digipack version that's got the Alliance of Hellhounds only with Schmier on vocals.
Mm.
Yeah, I like that even better.
Yeah.
So this one, in the middle of the ranking, yeah, number 8 for me. They were a great live band. We're gonna go to that in a minute.
All right. Alan, what'd you think of Inventor of Evil? Evil.
Yeah, it's a step up from the previous album for me. Really pretty solid track list, minus that Hellhounds debacle, which was kind of a neat idea. I mean, kind of cool. Like, yeah, let's have everybody sing a couple of lines, as a big thing. But like Jurgen said, you can't tell who's who. And since they're only doing 1 or 2 lines each, you don't really have time for your brain to process. It's like, okay, this is... oh, wait, it's gone. Who's this next one? Oh, wait, now it's somebody else. It just doesn't work. But the rest of the album works out pretty good. If there's a slight knock against the album, I noticed it's the longest album in their catalog, unless I'm mistaken. This one clocks in at barely under an hour. So it does start to feel a little long-winded by the time you get to the end of it. But not terrible. It's not like, it's 70 minutes or something. It's just noticeable because Destruction always did pretty good at keeping their albums in that 40 to 50 minute kind of pocket. Just so having this one almost 10 minutes longer stood out. But yeah, lots of good tracks here. It opens really well with Soul Collector and Defiance Will Remain. You've got really good tracks later on with No Man's Land, Killing Machine. This one, the version I heard anyway, had a cover of We Are the Road Crew. Now that one works pretty well as a cover for Destruction. Yeah. So it's they've come a long way from choosing My Sharona. So pretty solid album. Just one goofy song, and probably could have been pruned down just a little bit to get it back down to 50 minutes. But at the same time, I agree again with what you've been saying, Marty. You're starting to get a little bit into cookie cutter mode here. And so where I rank this one or how I grade it really depends on my mood. If I can, good mood, listen to it, feel like, yeah, that's a solid album, I would give that a B. On other days, I will listen to an album like this and feel like, it's just another Destruction album in a long run of very similar Destruction albums. And so on those days, I'd probably knock it down to, again, like, C+. So kind of a hard one to pin down. I ended up ranking it 10th, which, again, fine album, nothing wrong with it. We're just kind of in a run of albums I'm going to grade very similarly, and they're going to be ranked very close to one another because there's not a ton that separates them in my mind. And again, it's also a stretch of albums I don't have a long history with, so there may be a little bias there also coming in. So let me hand it over to you now, Marty, and we'll get your take on Inventor of Evil.
I'm looking at my sheet here. I'm a little surprised how high I ranked this record, but I found this to be their most evil-sounding album of the modern era. I think it's really good.
It does invent it.
It does invent it, so they should bring the evil for sure. Driving speed and exciting motion in the riff work, which you expect from Destruction. Soul Collector, love the song. I love the aggression on it and endlessly interesting riff work. Mike is just on fire on this one for sure. Defiance Will Remain. I love the shift in emotion on the chorus. It's just, I think, if anything, the Alliance of the Hellhounds, it offered a bit of variety in the album, which a lot of these records from here on out kind of start to lack. But it was fun trying to pick out who's singing what, and I was surprised Diano was on it. How'd they get him? He lived in Brazil at that point. He might still. I don't know.
They offered him money.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
He did.
And he was working on some stuff in Germany at that time.
Ah, okay. Right. But yeah, I think it's a good, I put it at number 5 on my list, which is probably preposterous, but I listened to it twice. I think it's a good record. I think it's a good heavy record.
It is.
Considering that it was recorded at Studio Abyss, it sounds Way better than Metal Discharge. It's a heavy, dark, evil kind of sounding record. I like it. Good, good stuff. And that leads us to 2008, Devolution.
Yeah. Was that before that? I have to.
Oh, you have to catch us up. Catch us up.
In 2007, they had the brilliant idea to re-record old songs on the album Thrash Anthems. The cover artwork is the best thing on the album. I don't need my old Destruction songs
ruined.
Ruined. I'm not that harsh, but I don't need them to. I don't need to hear them with that kind of production.
Yeah.
They got 2 new songs on it. One called Profanity, the other one, Deposition, Your Heads Will Roll. Not good in any way. 2 throwaway songs, pretty slow. After that, of course, they went on tour and they recorded The Curse of the Antichrist, Live in Agony. Have you seen that?
Cool cover.
That is way better than. Oh, wait a second. This one came out after Devolution. I saw that right now. So let's talk about Devolution. The production on that one changed a little bit. It's again very earthy production. The songwriting is a little bit more straightforward.
How many freaking covers do they have for this record? There's that one. There's the one that's online, and I've got this 3 CD thing with an eyeball on it.
Yeah, the one with the eyeball is.
This is Day of Reckoning. I got the wrong one. Yeah. Never mind.
So
continue.
Devolution. Again, a great idea. If you read the first letter of every song title downwards, it says Devolution. Very clever idea.
Fancy.
Yeah, but that ruins. With another track order, this might have been a better album. So their brilliant idea went totally backwards. It's not a bad album. Again, very mid-tempo, whole of the album. Great cover artwork. So Devolution is my number 10. Yeah. Devolution is a cool song. Vicious Circle is pretty cool. And Urge. 3 pretty cool songs, but the flow of the album, it lacks a little bit for me. So,
all right.
Number 10.
Number 10. All right. Alan.
Oh, sorry. Hold on. Clicked the wrong button there for a second. Yeah, this one has got the kind of cutesy naming convention with the song titles there. Has some really good songs on it. Once again, Destruction's not doing anything wrong on these albums, but they're staying within their box, and that's okay. It's working for them. After the weird permutations of the '90s kind of torpedoed them, you can kind of understand that they might want to play it safe. But yeah, 2 that stand out for me on this album, both Elevator to Hell and Offenders of the Throne, I'd have just, even by Destruction standards, the guitar work on those 2 really jumps out at me. So notes here are that, really good album, but the band is officially in cookie cutter mode. So once again, where you want to rank this one might just depend on how many other Destruction albums you've already heard. If you've heard a lot, this one's not doing anything you haven't heard before. But if you were introduced to the band around this time, you'd probably think, wow, this is fantastic, and rank it really high. So once again, I'd give it a grade somewhere there, like B to C plus. C plus if I'm being pissy and saying that it sounds too much like the last few albums, because at this point again, this is now the 3rd album since Antichrist, and there's a certain point where it just starts to feel like you're doing the same thing, maybe a little too much. but they're doing it well. So again, I could grade it as high as a B. I've got it ranked at 11th here, so one step down from Devolution. But again, these albums are really close to each other. I could move it up or down 2 slots, and it wouldn't cause me any real problems at all. So yeah, another solid album. Some great songs on it, but they're staying really close to home on these albums.
Did you rank it? I didn't hear it.
Sorry. Yes, I did. I ranked it 11th.
Right on.
So Jurgen's got it at 10. I've got it at 11. Marty, where do you have this one?
I put this at number 8.
Okay.
Again, this whole back half of the catalog, it could be wherever. Title track, lead off track is great. I love the feel in it. It thanks to Mike's intricacies and bends as the riff is played. Very cool. It's a great hook, solid production, and really, Alan, you're right. If a person had never heard Destruction before picked up this album and listened to it, they think it kicks ass. I mean, Destruction in the modern world is really kind of spot on, and it works. They retain the spirit of their youth, but they've given themselves a nice digital sheen, and it works. Shamir, I've noticed him adding a bit more of those crazy and shrill screams that he's known for to bring back a bit of the old days on this one. I mean, he's always done it, but it seemed like it was a little more frequent here and there on this record for me. But yeah, number 8 for me. I think it's solid. And you come to Day of Reckoning, 2011. Why don't you show your live record again?
Yeah, I've shown that.
Oh, you've
before.
shown it. Yeah. Okay. I don't know if you had more you wanted to say about it, but right on. Yep.
No, if you want to get that one, that is a good best of.
Yep.
Half recorded in at a Japanese show and half recorded at Wacken Open Air. And it's got the song Thrash to Death played with 3 drum kits. So they had Ollie playing, the drummer from the reunion, and the drummer at the time. So they were playing simultaneously.
Right.
Like you mentioned, the later catalog is very interchangeable. I moved that around quite a bit because it depends on your mood when you listen to them.
Mm-hmm.
So there you go, Day of Reckoning from 2011. The cover artwork is gross. Some of the cover artwork is just that devil guy. You can see the rest of the cover. There's nothing that stands out on the album for me. I don't know. Armageddonizer is probably the best song on the album.
Yeah, it's my top one too. Good song.
Yeah, they almost don't play stuff from that album anymore. So that's, yeah, you see where the band is standing on that one. So Day of Reckoning, pretty low on the list. This is my number 12.
Hey, mine too.
The nice thing is this one comes with a 7-inch. And it's got a cover of Stand Up and Shout on it from Dio.
Dio?
Yep.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. Do check out that song. It doesn't fit for Destruction.
No. All right, Alan, what'd you think of Day of Reckoning?
Pretty much the same thing Jurgen thought of it. It's they've got a new drummer on this one. I think it's their first on Nuclear Blast, isn't it? So they've got a new label. But
yeah, they went back to Nuclear Blast. Yeah, they released 2 albums on Nuclear Blast, then they 3 albums, then they changed to AFM, and then they got back with that one. Yeah.
Yep, and they're back here. And yeah, this one of this whole run of albums we've been covering, to me, this is probably the least impressive one. I also have it at number 12. And again, it's not that there's anything wrong with it, but yeah, all the others, there's always 2 or 3 songs I've been mentioning that I think are really good. This one, it's a little harder to find a standout. Armageddonizer, yeah, really heavy pounding, aggressive beat to it. And the price at least starts out, really super fast, kind of cool. Hate is My Fuel kind of zips along too. But overall, yeah, there's kind of fewer moments to really hang your hat on with this one. So this one, I've had, the last couple, at 10, 11, this one's 12. It's kind of like, again, each one's just a little lower than the previous one because they're just doing the same thing over and over. And that does get tedious and eventually you kind of get tired of it. But we've got some better stuff coming for my rankings. I'm not, just doing double digits the rest of the way. I've still got a few higher numbers I haven't played yet. But Day of Reckoning is one that, if I were trying to fill in this part of their discography for the shelf, I'd probably pass or skip this one. Unless I was trying to be completist about it. I think this is one I could probably do without picking up. Not a bad album, just there's nothing on here that really makes me think I've got to have this one.
All right. Day of Reckoning. My number 12 as well. We pulled a hat trick on this one.
We did. It's like 666, but twice.
Wow, dude. Yeah. For me, the one thing that's really noticeable that Mike kind of loses a lot of his flair, and he's kind of focusing on palm muted crunch riffs. Again, he does throw some Mike-isms into it to keep it flowing along, but the riffs are a little bit more subdued on here. I don't know if they're sounding a bit tired. I mean, they're obviously coasting at this point, but it's still quality modern thrash. Favorite songs: Armageddonizer, Sorcerer of Black Magic, The Demon is God. I really like the cool use of harmonics as the main riff on that song. That's a bit of the Mike doing something different. Even though the album is this tempo-wise the whole way through, little things like that are a nice touch. I wish this album had more of that, but it didn't. 12. It's number 12. Which leads us to 2012, Spiritual Genocide.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. The thing with the songwriting is Mike wrote less on these last couple of albums, so Schmier took over the songwriting.
Ah, okay.
Yeah.
Good to know.
And as he's a bass player and he has to sing along to playing the bass, that's why they simplified the riffs a little bit.
Gotcha.
So yeah, I talked to them about that. So, Spiritual Genocide from 2012. Again, very cool artwork.
Yeah.
Yep.
This one got shifted around. Initially I had that as my number 14, but I listened to that closely a couple of times 2 days ago, and it moved up to be my number 9. So,
wow,
even in the top 10. Great songs: Cyanide, Spiritual Genocide, The Sign of Repentance. There's a song on here called Legacy of the Past, which has got 2 guest vocalists, namely Geran from Tankard and Tom Angel Ripper. And they wanted to get Millet, but Millet doesn't want to do something with the Big Four thing. He's out of that. That's not his league, so to say.
Oh, excuse. He's more of the melodic Swedish death metal guy now.
Yeah, he is. So, really, really good songs on there. The production is pretty cool. I thought it was too modern for me, but yeah, I like it. And if you got the chance, listen to the song Legacy of the Past. We grew up in a time, the scene was on the rise, blah, blah, blah. Injection of the zombie attack in the sign of evil, all guns were blazing for a breaking new brutal sound, blah, 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 yeah.
Yeah, they do that.
Yeah, they do that. They have 1 or 2 songs like that on every of the new albums. And this one also came with a little bonus 7-inch, and they covered the song Princess of the Night by Saxon.
Mm-hmm.
Not a bad cover choice. Okay.
Well, they do a Tigers of Pantang song somewhere in this thing.
Yeah.
It does not fit with anything on that record. So stupid.
No, it doesn't.
Oh, and it has got a couple of guest guitarists. Harry came back for the album, and they did a version of the song Carnivore with Ollie, the old drummer, on drums. It's also on that one.
Huh.
So it's the release from Agony lineup playing a new song. Ollie does still work for the band, so the old jazzy drummer. He is curating the back catalog, and he does the re-releases. He organizes everything around that.
Wow,
So they are still friends. Yeah.
that's cool. Yeah,
No bad blood there.
excellent.
Yeah,
All
you can read that in that little book. That's 180 pages of the early Destruction stuff from 84 till 1990.
Did that come with a release, or was it sold separately?
No, this one came with nine tape box.
Oh wow.
Yeah, called Trapped in Lunatic Possession. So it's got 9 of their albums until Cracked Brain, and this book came with it. New interviews, exclusive interviews, so
Cool.
well worth getting. Yeah.
Nice. All right, Alan, what'd you think of Spiritual Genocide?
I'm kind of with Jurgen, and also Alex in the chat just mentioned they kind of likes this one a lot. I like this one a bit too. I think this is the best one they've done since Antichrist. I probably have it ranked a little too high. It was a new album to me, listening to it in the past couple of weeks, and so it has a little bit of that, minty, fresh newness that I probably got it ranked a little too high. The thing that stood out to me about this one and why I liked it, it wasn't just that, it's another good set of songs. It's that there's a little more differentiation here from song to song to song. They're not doing anything radical. It's not like you've got a funk song and a ballad and, a headbanger or anything. But the songs just feel like they've got a little more individual personality compared to some of the recent albums where it's kind of like, you and Jurgen have said, it's kind of like they're doing, one tempo. The songs are kind of sticking to, one template, song after song after song. And so this one feeling like it's just a little more varied from track to track makes me feel like, now here's an album, if I was filling in the Destruction shelf, I would want to get. Because I feel like I would get more mileage out of going back to this one and playing it over and over. Whereas the last few albums, I think Devin said it a few minutes ago, over some of these last few albums, you could take those tracks, rearrange them, and put them on different albums, and for the most part, you'd never know the difference. But this one feels like it's got more of its own personality overall, and that, hit me the right way. Part of it may have also just been that listening to these chronologically, this was the first one in a while that had that quality about it. So yeah, cool album. City of Doom is the standout track for me. Thought that one was very, very cool. The Princess of the Night, not the best cover song ever done, but their version's fine. Nothing wrong with it. I ranked this one 6th. Looking at it now, it's probably a few spots too high, but if nothing else, it does. It kind of breaks up the monotony of those past 4 albums. It's the first one since the Antichrist where I feel like, this is an album that maybe stands on its own rather than just feeling like it's a slightly less good version of Antichrist. And that's kind of what happened with these last 4 albums we talked about. So I'll call it 6th tonight with an asterisk that if we did this again, it would probably be a little bit lower than that. What do you think of this one, Marty?
I thought the sound was tighter though thinner sound. It gives the album a sonic feel of the older days. One thing I have to say on here that you listen to a lot of this newer Destruction in a short period of time. One thing that jumps out, the tempo on all the records kind of going in the same direction. And the background, every chorus has the background vocals, the gang yells. I mean, that becomes Destruction canon for the rest of the times, it seems. The background gang yells really kind of out of control on this album. They're a lot. And they're like going between, they're doing some weird shit with it. For the most part, though, the title track I really like with its playful guitar work and energy. City of Doom, flowing riff work within a groove is awesome. No signs of repentance. Killer and odd riff. Again, there's good stuff on this record. I put this at number 11 in spite of that. Again, we're just getting down to brass tacks, and a lot of stuff is falling. It's falling, It's solid, though. Solid record. And that leads us to 2016, Under Attack. I'm sure. Is there some other stuff that fell in between that we missed, Jurgen? I don't.
No.
Okay.
No. So they had 4 years to do a new album, Under Attack. I liked it when it came out. I really liked it. We played with them on that tour a couple of times. Under Attack is a great song, but apart from that, I don't know. You can hear the songwriting of Mike is getting lesser and lesser. So the chuggy riffs are here. It's not a good flow to that album. I think the production is getting a little bit more clicky on here, although it was recorded by in Switzerland with VO Pulver. It's got black metal as a bonus track. Yeah, not very good. In my opinion. So this one for me is number 11 in the catalog.
Right on. Alan.
Yeah, this one slips compared to the previous one for me too. It's still not a bad album overall, but I like Dethroned is a cool track. There's a couple on here that are the misses, again, there's only slight misses. It's not that they're terrible songs, but they're just like, not too keen on. Say, for example, Getting Used to the Evil. Pathogenic is like, maybe not. Another one that's something that stands out to me here is kind of funny. Once again, they're, like Jurgen said, they're doing some funny things with the lyrics from time to time. This one's got, the line I picked out to quote was, what the fuck ever happened to the true spirit of rock? It's 2013. We're officially at the point where destruction are old men yelling at clouds. Which is kind of funny because 2013 is also, I think, when Accept put out The Rise of Chaos, and there's a track on that album where Accept are a bunch of old men yelling at clouds, about, I was born in a cave, I'm an analog man. It's just kind of like, yeah, sure, you can do that if you want, but you're kind of just dating yourself and not necessarily making good songs as you're doing it. So, yeah, again, not a bad album. It doesn't stink or anything. But I kind of feel like you had that one release of Spiritual Genocide where they kind of, perked up a little bit, mixed things up just a little bit more. And now they're right back just in that cookie cutter mode. So I've got this one ranked at 14. And again, to be very clear, though, you could go through multiple layers of the earth between this and getting down to 15 at Cannonball. This is not a terrible album. It's just that they've done a lot of albums like this since in the 21st century. This is another one, and if I was figuring out, what 5 or 6 Destruction CDs do I need to actually add to the shelf physical copies of, there's no reason for me to add this one unless I'm going to be completist. There's just not. So 14 it is. Something's got to be 14th, then this is the one for me.
Right.
Where have you got it? What are your thoughts on this one, Marty?
It's still in spots technically sound and feels like modern Destruction. It's just sounding tired at this point. It sounds like they shot for a bigger studio sound. There's a beefy kick and tom sound. The guitars lack bite, but still sound good. The big minus for me, not huge, but annoying, Schmier tries to sing a bit here on this one, as on the tracks Generation, Nevermore, and the title track. The track Dethroned has a punky vibe to it, and barren of excitement. It's a weak track. I don't mind punk, of course, but I don't know. Just it seems this kind of the cookie cutter is kind of phoned in at this point. I put 13 on this one.
Okay.
For sure. And that leads us to Mike's last album with the band, Born to Perish, 2019.
Yeah, but before that, a lot of people were screaming for them continuing re-recording their songs for some strange reason. So on the first thrash anthems, they re-recorded all the classic like "Curse the Gods," "The Antichrist," "Death Trap," stuff like that. They re-recorded "Cracked Brain" for that one. So people were yelling at them to re-record the what do you call them? The lesser known songs, the hidden gems of the older
The
albums,
deep cuts.
the deep cuts. Right, that's what I was searching
Yep.
for. And Destruction said, "Okay, we're gonna do a fundraising campaign, and we're gonna re-record if we got enough money, and release it ourselves. So it's only the people with participating in the fundraising will get the album on CD." But they re-recorded the deep cuts for Thrash Anthems 2, and they put it out on Nuclear Blast because everybody was screaming for it. So it's got Black Mass, Front Beast. Front Beast is a song from the very early demo. The Ritual, Dissatisfied Existence from the release from Agony, and they recorded Ripping You Off Blind, and this is a blistering version of that song that was originally on Cracked Brain. So that came in between. And in 2019, just before the pandemic hit, they released Born to Perish. I bought the album when it came out, of course. Inspired by Death is a song on here. I think this album is very, very uninspired. It's
I thought it was a little bit more inspired, to be honest with you. Crazy. Okay.
Yeah, everybody's got a different.
Everybody hears
opinion.
it differently. Yeah.
I can't really get into that album. Nothing is.
Cool cover.
Yeah, the cover is pretty cool. Yeah. Nothing stands out for me. Butchered for Life, I thought, was kind of an attempt to write another Butcher anthem. But no, this one is not for me. I don't really like the production. I can't even remember who produced the album. So this one is my number 14.
Wow. Okay.
I tried it since it came out. And for some reason, I stepped back from my old band called Final Breath a year prior to that. And in 2020, before the pandemic, my old band was supporting them on that tour throughout Europe on 25 dates or something like that. But I wasn't part of that.
Right on. Okay.
Because our old drummer is Destruction's booking guy.
Oh, nice. Yep. Worked out good.
Yeah.
All right. Born to Perish, Alan. What do you think?
Yeah, actually, I do like this one, and like Alex says, there was a little bit of a lineup change. Randy Black, from Annihilator and Primal Fear comes in as drummer. There's a new second guitarist who I don't remember their name. Sorry, second guitarist. The production is different. It's a little thinner sounding. It's not as beefed up as typical Destruction albums have been. It's not enough that it bothers me, but it does have a little bit different sound. But it's also a pretty speedy album overall, and a lot of the tracks actually do click with me pretty good. Inspired by Death is pretty good. I like Tyrants of the Netherworld, We Breathe Evil, Fatal Flight 17. This is one that, again, don't have a long history with it. I checked it out when a couple years ago when their most recent album came out, because I wanted to kind of compare the two more closely. And I was impressed with this one then, and actually revisiting it here in the past couple of weeks, I'm like, this one actually is quite good. I've got it ranked, again, maybe too high just because it has that kind of, shiny new car smell factor going for it right now. But I ranked it as 5th and gave it like a solid B. Yeah, this is one I would pick up and stick on the shelf if I come across it sometime. So, yeah, I like this one. Is it doing anything new or different or amazing? No. It's not going to challenge anything in the top 4 whatsoever. But yeah, I found it a really solid album, better than anything else they had done since the Antichrist. That's just my take on it. And again, I don't have the deep history with this one.
All right. Production right off the bat is Titanful. Good production. I thought Mike's playing seemed a bit more inspired again since the last album in particular. Favorites, the title track, Tyrants of the Netherworld. Tracks like Filthy Wealth explore different tempos and drum beats. The song isn't overly special, but it's good to see them messing with different moods again. Then they end the album with Hellbound, the Tigers of Pantang cover. It's a fish out of water song. And, Schmier actually singing on it. I mean, I think he fancies himself as being able to sing, and it doesn't work for me. It just doesn't click.
Yeah, that is a good Tigers song, and this is a bad version of it.
yeah. But for me, this one ranked a little bit higher. Number 9. When I got this record, I returned to it quite a bit, and listening to it this week, I enjoyed it. So, Yep, number 9 for me. Which leads us to the last in the catalog thus far. It's 2022 Diabolical. A lot of talk about this one on the YouTube metal community when it came out. Tons and tons of people. Yep.
I'm gonna get to that in a moment. But in 2020, we know what happened. So they were sitting around doing nothing, and in 2019, I saw a show by them, played at the Party Sun Open Air, and they released Born to Thrash live album with the Party Sun show. I liked that show. I was there, and they played only 10 songs, so it's a single LP, and it's Curse the Gods, Nailed to the Cross, Born to Perish, Bad Butcher, Life Without Sense, Betrayal, Total Disaster, The Butcher Strikes Back, Thrash Till Death, and Bestial Invasion. So great set list.
Yeah, that'll work.
And it's a raw live album, so no overdubs on that one.
Before you get into the new one, do you have any insight as to why Mike was no longer in the band? Was it health stuff, or he just wasn't being productive anymore? Or you have any idea?
He didn't feel inspired anymore, and he that is only my guess. He saw Schmier taking over the band a little bit too much. Schmier was always the front person doing all the interviews, because Mike is a very quiet guy.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't talk too much, and he's shy. He's very shy. You have to get up to him and talk without a ton of people around. So he's a nice guy. He was always a little bit strange, but it was. I would say at first, Destruction was Mike's band. Yeah. He was the one that asked Schmier to join. They had a band called Knights of Demons before that, with a different singer and a different bass player. So Mike was the songwriter back then, and Schmier was taking it a little bit from him, and I think that frustrated him a little bit. He suffers from depression, and I think 2020, 2021, around that time, that doesn't help feeling better.
Yeah.
So I think that's the explanation why he stepped back.
Right on.
So, like I said, 2020, 2021, nothing to do. They played a show with no audience in Switzerland. And released the album Life Attack. Clever title again. This is a 5-sided LP, and they play a lot of shit on here without audience.
Wow.
Yeah.
They film it too?
They did film it too. You can watch that on YouTube. Yeah. So, and even before the album came out, they released little maxi single as a teaser, State of Apathy. That's got 2 songs on it, Sign of Fear, the live version from the Switzerland show, and a State of Apathy special pre-album version. Nothing special on here. And yes, Diabolical. I heard so much good stuff on the internet about it. I bought it shortly after it came out. I first saw Darcy show it and a couple of other guys, and I was disappointed. Mike is surely missing. Nothing against the 2 new guys in the band, that they are great guitar players, good songwriters, but overall, nothing on that album stands out for me. I don't know. Repent Your Sins, maybe. Horrification is a terrible song. They covered the City Babies Attacked by Rats.
I like GBH, but I don't know I need.
I like GBH, but
I don't know if I need Destruction covering GBH.
Yeah.
Or Exploited, to be honest. Anyway.
Diabolical, the title song is okay. Under the Spell is a pretty good opener for the album. The album artwork it's a cool idea, but I don't know if I like it. Sometimes I like it, sometimes I don't. Yeah. This one is number 13 for me. So until now, the last Destruction studio album.
Yeah, we're about due. They're about 2 years usually, and we're probably due for something.
Yeah, I can ask my old drummer. He probably knows when the new Destruction comes out.
Right on. All right, Alan, what'd you think of Diabolical? This is another one we covered on the Album Club. We've done 2 Destruction albums on the Album Club. Yep.
Yeah, this was an early Album Club inclusion. Yeah, this one, I had not kept up with Destruction for a long time when this came out. So this was kind of, like, okay, time to check in and see what they've been up to. There are some things I agree with Jurgen on, some things I would disagree. I agree about the cover. I tend to not like the way the art turned out. I get what they were going for, but the color scheme and stuff just it doesn't look
pretty typical
to me. It's pretty typical, and just I mean, it just doesn't quite get there. I do like the cover of City Baby Attacked by Rats. I think they really nail it on that one. Just fast, punky, raw. I think that's actually, oddly, it's one of the the cover song here is one of the highlights on the album for me. I'd say the situation with Mike, I very much get it. Some folks in the chat have been saying like they flat out will not listen to this because it doesn't have Mike on it. If you've been a lifelong fan and followed them the whole way, I can get that. As somebody who really zoned out on most of their 21st century output for a long time, it wasn't that much of a shock to me. And I do think the new guitarists do a good job filling in. I think it's a little bit similar to the situation you had on Cracked Brain, where it's like, okay, Andre is not Schmier, but he's a decent replacement for Schmier. These guys are not Mike, but they're operating in the same ballpark. They come in and they still make it sound like Destruction. And a lot of times, if you're completely replacing someone that important to the sound and who's also your guitarist, it could end up sounding like a very, very different type of album. But they managed to avoid that here, so that worked out okay. The album, some of the tracks are not bad. Again, I think I agree. Diabolical's a good opening. No Faith in Humanity's not bad. There was one other. Oh, Horrification. Yeah, not a great song. If nothing else, though, it's a fun lyrical concept where they're very much, harshing on the whole influencer culture.
Hey, wait a minute.
Pissing on that stuff. So yes, it's kind of their own version of the fuck the Kardashians type of T-shirt. So, and we haven't talked about that, but there's always been a good dose of that kind of commentary in Destruction's lyrics for a long time. They've always taken shots at things like that. So at the end of the day, I put this one kind of in the middle of the catalog at number 7. And again, that one could certainly slide down if we did this again in the future. I don't know if it's an album I'll go back to very often. I haven't a ton since it came out in 2022. So right now I'm giving it like that kind of B- grade where it's still all right, but when I put the B- on it, it usually means there is something that's keeping me from going back and playing it on a more regular basis. And that's kind of where I'm at with Diabolical.
All right, I've got on here, Schmear and the Destruction Players present Diabolical. There's a really good guitar sound on this. The whole production is sharpened together. They've really got it kind of ironed out at this point. No mic, which is a bummer, but Furia and Demir channel his spirit effectively. They are not as unique of players, but they understood the job they were hired to do.
Yeah, well said.
Yeah. On this album, they continue to mix up the tempos a bit, which is welcomed. Favorites for me, the title track and The Last of a Dying Breed. I really like the super catchy riff work in the chorus. The GBH cover, take or leave it, it's fine, whatever. The album is okay. We went into it for an hour and a half again on the channel and it's good. A lot of people really tooting the horn of this record. I was kind of excited to check it out, and it's okay. It's number 10 on my list, and not a really super high ranking, but there's a lot of heavy hitters that are in front of it. So at this point, Destruction is just kind of is Schmear and they're doing a good job. It's okay. It's okay. I mean, I would go, if they're at a festival, I'd go check them out,
Oh yeah, there'd be no reason not to.
Is it the past? No, it's not as good as that, but it's solid. It's a good representation of the Destruction brand at this point. Let's face it, it's a brand.
Yeah,
it's huge in Europe, and more power to them. They've been clocking in the miles and the hours and the blood, sweat, and tears for a long time. They've been putting out a lot of stuff. I mean, 15 albums on their own, not including all the EPs, the live stuff. They've had a good hustle over the years.
Mm-hmm.
So that leads us up. What are your final thoughts regarding Destruction?
We've got a final release that came out in 2020.
Right on.
Called The Butcher Strikes Back. It's got some rarities on it. It's out on Vic Records. So it's got the demo for the reunion album where they were shopping around for labels. They recorded Bestial Invasion again for the demo, The Butcher Strikes Back, and World Domination of Pain. It's got Shell Shock on it, We Are the Road Crew, The Alliance of Hellhounds, the Schmear version, and a couple of live songs. So that is just a little compilation. So I'm a Destruction completist. Will I like a new album? I don't know. I have to hear it. Will I buy it? Yes, because I'm stupid.
Because you're collector scum, is what you're saying?
Yeah. You can call me that if you want to.
I'll get you a shirt here next time I send you a package. That'll be in it.
So what I think about Destruction was a very influential band. Even between the big four, you can hear. Listen closely to Endless Pain. You can hear some Destruction. They attempted to play stuff like that. I can't remember the song right now, but they attempted to play the Mad Butcher riff in one of the songs on Endless Pain. Sodom said they were the greatest back then. Everybody was admiring Mike's guitar playing, and that is what I'm missing from modern Destruction. Yeah. Bye, Marty.
I'm sorry, my kid was here talking to me. Go ahead.
No, it's all good.
So yeah, Destruction, influential band, like I said. Not a really shitty album in the catalog. Even the stuff that I ranked low, they are good albums.
Yeah, there's nothing.
They are.
There's only one real stutter step, Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, a couple, but Yeah.
A lot of the newer stuff is interchangeable, but we talked about that.
Yep.
Yeah.
Any final thoughts, Alan?
Yeah, kind of the same point. Looking at this, we've talked about 15 albums. There's only one of them I would give a less than average grade for. 14 out of 15 rank at least as an average thrash album, all the way up to, classic, all-time great thrash album. That's a pretty amazing run for a band. So, yeah, kudos to them. And yes, while we've said, some of these albums feel kind of cookie cutter or interchangeable, it didn't mean they were bad. It just meant that, they found what they were good at and, they stuck with it. They know what pays the bills, but they still did it well. It never felt even on those albums, it never felt like it was completely phoned in or that they weren't putting any effort into it. The album still had strong tracks. It still sounded like good, solid Destruction material. And yes, it's interesting. They do have that down period in the 90s where things got weird, but not much of that made it onto album. And I wonder if that spares them a little bit compared to some other bands where you maybe had 2 or 3 really weak albums in a row before they pulled themselves back up. With Destruction, it was, 2 EPs and just 1 album. So even though there's this kind of, a period where, yeah, they definitely lost their muse for a while, it doesn't show up in the album discography too much. So I guess that works to their benefit. They were smart enough not to try to make too many albums at the time and waited until they kind of got things back on track. So yeah, a very, very solid discography by a band that's stayed very consistent. Good for them. Marty, your closing thoughts?
I will just say that, it's easy for us to sit here and be like, oh, this album's not very good, or, that little nitpicky things here and there that, people that maybe aren't familiar with writing music, it's easy for us as fans to look at albums and not realize what goes into making them. It's for a band that has been doing it for so freaking long, or like, the last half of their catalog is coasting, but you know what? They're still really good records. And people don't have any idea how difficult it is to write an album that's true to yourself and you hope that people like it. And I'm speaking from my perspective at this point. A lot of guitar players, they play what they play. They do what they do. They're good at what they do. Not a lot of guys. When you start seeing bands that are doing a lot of like soul searching creatively, they're starting to do some weird stuff. Mike did it a little bit with that Least Successful Human Cannonball. He did some other things that kind of go with the trends, but it's really hard to progress and not alienate fans. It's hard to progress and not distance yourself from what you started out as. So you really got to give, granted, if you like something, you like something. If you hate something, you hate something. But there's a lot that goes into making music, especially for decades and decades. Like these guys have done it. Even though it's only one original guy in the band at this point, it's still really solid. Is it great? Is it, essential? Is it as essential as the beginning? It isn't. But it is what it is. They've made a life out of doing this. And that is to be applauded and celebrated. And honestly, other than the Least Successful Human Cannonball, if I were to run across any of the ones that I don't own in a shop in a used bin, I would buy them. Because there's nothing really that sucks on here. I would probably listen to it 2 or 3 times and it would sit in the collection, And so I don't know. I don't know what I was trying to get at here, but, try to put it in perspective. When we do these rankings, it's easy for us to throw stones when we all live in our glass house here. But,
yeah, we've got to, and that's part of the problem with rankings. You got to find something to differentiate them. Yep. And so sometimes it does seem like we're making a mountain out of what's really just a molehill.
Right. But I mean, if you look at the big 4 and you put them all next to each other, Destruction fared really well.
Yes.
Creator struggled for a lot of albums. They did. Sodom, for me, I mean, a lot of people love Sodom, undisputed love, whatever they do. I struggle with some Sodom. As soon as Tom started doing the hardcore shouting, he lost me. I like the evil Tom vocal style. Uncle Tom really getting in there. But there's some great records. There's some not so great records. Tankard has fared really well. They've been really consistent. I have not heard all their records, but the ones I've heard are still good. Still good. And who else is the big four? Creator, Sodom, Destruction. Yeah, that's all of them. I think Destruction fared the best. Yeah, they had a few stutter steps, but it was quickly corrected. And we talk about the Goldilocks zone. People, long-term fans, it's not as good as this album, or it's not this, it's not that. It's never just right. Well, I think Destruction picked a lane. They're like, we're going to be just right for riding this out. This is what Destruction is. We're a modern thrash band from the past. Like it or hate it, it doesn't matter. It's getting us on the festival circuit. We're playing our music, our classics, and our new stuff. They're doing it. More power to them. I mean, to make a life and a career out of music, it's a hard road. It's a hard road. I think it's an easier road in Europe than it is in the U.S. But I mean, you've got the network there. You've got a network. You've got endless fests. You've got distance is not as big of a problem as it is in the U.S. and in North America. It's just not. But anyway, that's a whole nother topic. And it was a good pick. And we always a pleasure to have you, my friend. As always.
Thank you for having me.
Yes. Could not have tackled this topic without you.
Yep.
I have to add one thing. Marty talks about songwriting. I've been playing in bands for 30 years. Destruction did it pretty well. You can see they developed a lot during the first couple of years, from 84 till 1990. Then they started to experiment, but they were away from the public eye for around about 10 years. 10 years. And then they came back. They know what their fans wanted, and that is why their first couple of reunion albums are that great, because they listened to what their fans were doing. And as they got on and released more material, it's getting harder and harder to write songs that got the spirit of the old days, but still managing to include some more modern stuff. So they did pretty well. And like Alan said, apart from least successful, not a really bad album. You just have to be in the mood for those. You probably won't listen to them as much as the old classics, but yeah, they are decent albums. Even my number 14, Born to Perish, I didn't say that it is a shitty album. Just not for me. Ask me next week when I listen to it 2 times more. Maybe
that light switch might be like,
yeah, right.
Yeah, but there's no way you're knocking Eternal Devastation and all the stuff off the shelf to get it the least successful human cannibal. Putting it on. No, that's not happening. But awesome. Yeah. I think we knocked it on the head pretty well here. Jurgen, do you have anything coming up on your channel? It's been a minute.
Yeah, nothing's really planned. I have a few ideas here and there. Maybe I should do a collection update because I got in some stuff, but I don't want to talk about the new Bruce Dickinson or the new Judas Priest album. So yeah, maybe I'm gonna do something with Testament, not their whole catalog, but I was planning to do a video on their live albums. They've got 5 live albums, believe it or not.
Wow!
Oh, I did not know that.
Yeah. Wow.
A lot of people don't know that, and I have a few surprises here and there. Maybe
3.
There's more. 2 more.
Yep.
Yeah, maybe I'm gonna do that. Look out for a new review next week.
Yep.
I'm gonna do that
on a certain channel.
Yeah, on a certain channel. Yeah.
Yep.
So, if you are interested to see what's in that box and what I think about the album, yeah, watch out for that.
Awesome.
Check back soon.
Alan, what about you? What's coming up on Tuesday for Let's Talk Metal?
On Tuesday, well, this past weekend I went to a record show.
Oh, yay!
And
I haven't heard any details. You haven't shared anything with me. Usually,
I
same
haven't.
pictures.
That's true. Let's just say, after an hour, I had bought so much stuff, I had to go drop it off in the car and go back and start over. So,
I love the proclamations that people always start off in the year. This year, I am not going to buy as many items. I do the same thing. I'm done. I'm on the wagon. Well,
Yep.
falling off that wagon is a bitch.
I really haven't bought a ton this year, other than this show and the one box that I got from a Discogs guy that had a ton of stuff on sale. It's been the only 2 times I've kind of just gone crazy. Everything else I've picked up a thing here or a thing there. But the record show also had some very different kind of trends going on compared to other shows I've been to over the past year. So I'll talk about that. No, Devin, definitely not.
Just to light them on fire in his front
I might
yard.
have bought 5 variants of something, but it wasn't that. But no, it was a pretty good record show, but it did have some different vibes going on in terms of what people were looking for, and also in terms of what vendors were setting out a lot of. So, that's already in the can. Uploaded it today, so it'll be up there Tuesday morning for folks to enjoy.
Awesome. Well, great. The show notes for next week. Got reviews coming up. There'll be more than one this week, so get ready for that and check out our library reviews. There's a whole bunch in there to check out. Not very well viewed, but the ones that do like it. Crescent Shield. We're talking about a Crescent Shield record, the second album. I can't remember the name of it. On Wednesday. And Friday, do we have anything Friday?
Next Friday, we do not. We've got some folks in the running, but we do not have someone confirmed for April 5th yet.
Well, we'll be here. And with bells on and ready to have a chat with all you fine folks in the chat. Thank you again for your weekly support.
Oh, crap. I got to order bells. I forgot.
Dang it. You were in charge of the bells. I specifically said, don't forget the bells. And you're like, yeah, no problem.
I sent you your bells, but I forgot to get some for me.
Right on. Okay, everybody. Thanks. Jurgen again. Awesome. Good chat as always. Don't hang up. And that's it. Cheers, everyone. We'll see you next week. Have a good one.
Go catch up on your basketball scores.
All right. Cheers.